Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. The ancient humans return waking up on a desert planet with an army of 10,000. Commander Hen gasped as he woke up. His lungs burned with the first breath in thousands of years. The cryopod opened with a hissing sound. Blue emergency lights filled the dark room. His body felt wrong, lighter, but also heavier with time. "Status report," he said in a rough voice. "Welcome back, Commander," the ship's AI replied calmly. "It has been about 52,467 years since we left Earth. Systems are working at minimum levels. We are on an unknown desert planet called KX-319. Hen couldn't believe it. 50,000 years? That was impossible. They were supposed to reach New Terra after sleeping for only 120 years. "What about the others?" he asked. "All 99,999 colonists are waking up. Everyone survived the long sleep, Commander." Hen walked unsteadily to the observation deck. He looked through the large window and saw endless red-orange desert stretching to the horizon. Two suns hung in the sky. Strange, tall structures rose in the distance. "This isn't where we were going," he whispered. "That's right," said the AI. "A meteor hit our ship 236 years into our journey. Emergency systems activated and found the closest livable world." More people came onto the deck. Dr. Kim, the head scientist, stood beside Han at the window. Engineer Park checked the computer displays. Security Chief Lee organized the waking soldiers. "We might be the last humans alive," Dr. Kim said softly. Han shook his head. "No, we're the first humans on this planet, and there are 100,000 of us." In the next few days, the ship became a center of activity. People moved through corridors that had been silent for millennia. Medical teams checked everyone for problems after the long sleep. Engineers assessed damage to the ship. Han met with his leadership team in what had become the command center. "Our situation is challenging but not hopeless," he told them. "The ship can't fly again, but many systems still work. We have enough food supplies for 6 months. After that, we need to grow our own." Dr. Kim showed images of soil samples. "The ground has basic nutrients but needs work. We can modify some of our plants to grow here." "Water is our biggest problem," Engineer Park added. "The atmosphere has some moisture but not enough. We need to find underground sources." Security Chief Lee looked concerned. "We should establish a perimeter. We don't know what lives in those distant structures." Han nodded. "Our first priority is survival, then exploration." The colonists began to build a settlement around the massive ship. They set up solar panels to capture energy from the twin suns. They created living quarters from ship materials. Some people still struggled with the idea that everyone they had known on Earth had been dead for over 50,000 years. 2 weeks after landing, Han led a small team to explore beyond their camp. They wore protective suits against the harsh sun and carried water and emergency supplies. The strange spires were farther than they looked, rising like fingers pointing to the sky. "These aren't natural," said Dr. Kim, examining the base of one tower. "The material is similar to stone but has been shaped deliberately." Han touched the surface. To his surprise, faint lights appeared under his fingers, tracing unknown patterns. "It's responding to me." The entire spire began to glow softly, pulsing with blue light. The ground trembled. The team stepped back, alarmed. "We should return to the ship," Lee suggested, hand on his weapon. Han agreed, but as they turned to leave, a section of ground slid open near the base of the tower. Steps led down into darkness. Cool air flowed from below, a welcome change from the heat above. "Commander, we shouldn't go down there without backup," Lee warned. Han hesitated, then made a decision. "You're right. Mark this location. We'll return tomorrow with proper equipment and more people." That night, the leadership team discussed the discovery. "The structure responded to human touch," Dr. Kim said. "That suggests it was designed to interact with us or something very like us." "Maybe it's a trap," Lee argued. "An alien security system." Engineer Park studied the readings they had collected. "The energy signature is strange, but has pattern similarities to old Earth technology. It's almost as if—" "As if what?" Han asked. "As if humans built it," Park finished quietly. The next morning, a larger team returned to the site. They brought lights, tools, and weapons. The underground passage was still open. Han led them down the steps. The air grew cooler as they descended. They reached a large chamber filled with dust. Their lights revealed walls covered with symbols. Some looked alien, but others seemed disturbingly familiar. "These look like ancient Earth writing," Dr. Kim said in amazement. "Some resemble Proto-Sanskrit and others early Chinese characters." In the center of the room stood a pedestal with a handprint outline. Han approached it cautiously. "Commander, wait," Lee began. Han placed his hand on the outline. The room hummed to life. Lights activated along the walls. A holographic image appeared above the pedestal, a spinning globe that wasn't Earth. It was this planet, but different. Where there was now desert, the image showed oceans and green continents. A voice spoke in a language none of them understood. Then it shifted, as if learning from them until words became clear. "Human genetic signature confirmed. Welcome, descendants. Archive access granted." The walls displayed new images. Humans in strange uniforms working alongside alien beings, ships traveling between stars, cities rising on different worlds. "What is this?" Han whispered. The voice answered, "This is Outpost Horizon, established in the human year 2341. This world was the fourth colony of the first expansion." Han's team looked at each other in shock. Their history had never mentioned such early space colonization. "That's impossible," Dr. Kim said. "Our mission began in 2217. Earth hadn't developed interstellar travel then." "Correct. Your historical records were altered after the collapse. Knowledge of the first expansion was removed to prevent the social upheaval that occurred when contact was lost." Han struggled to understand. "Are you saying humans were here before, 50,000 years ago?" "Humans established this colony 54,267 years ago. It was abandoned during the Resource Wars 49,890 years ago. This facility was left to guide any who might return." As the team stood in stunned silence, the voice continued. "You are not the last humans in the universe, Commander Han. You are the returning children of a forgotten empire, and you are not alone among the stars." 3 months passed quickly as the human colony took shape around the crashed ship. The desert was harsh, but human determination proved stronger. Solar panels spread across the dunes like metallic flowers, soaking up the twin suns. Tall moisture collectors pulled precious water from the thin air. Small gardens grew inside protected domes. Commander Han stood on a rise overlooking their growing settlement. What had begun as a desperate survival camp was becoming a true colony. People moved with purpose now, not panic. They had homes, jobs, and the beginnings of a future. Officer Choi approached, her uniform dusty from patrol. "My team found something you need to see." The next morning, Han joined Choi's exploration team. They traveled 10 kilometers west across the desert in rugged vehicles built from ship parts. As they crested a dune, Han saw it, a massive structure half buried in sand. Unlike the spires they had discovered earlier, this building was low and wide, with curved walls that reminded Han of ancient Earth temples. "We detected energy readings," Choi explained, "faint but steady." As they approached, the sand beneath their feet began to vibrate softly. The walls of the structure hummed, and panels lit up with symbols that shifted and changed. Dr. Kim ran her hand along one wall. It glowed brightly at her touch, symbols appearing beneath her fingers. "It's responding to us," she said with wonder. "These markings, they're similar to ancient Earth writing, but much older than anything in our records." Engineer Park examined a panel that had slid open. "This technology is advanced but follows logical patterns. I think I can." He touched a sequence of symbols and the humming grew louder. The ground trembled. Sand poured away as a doorway revealed itself. Cool air rushed out from the darkness within. "We should proceed carefully," Security Chief Lee cautioned. Inside, they found chambers filled with objects that seemed both alien and strangely familiar. Tables held tools shaped for human hands, chairs designed for human bodies. Displays activated as they passed, showing images of stars, planets, and beings that looked human standing alongside creatures they had never seen. "Our ancestors were here," Dr. Kim whispered, "just as the facility told us." Their exploration was cut short when Officer Choi's radio crackled with urgent messages from the colony. "Commander, we need you back immediately. We have visitors." They rushed back to find the colony in a state of controlled alarm. A massive dust storm had blown in from the east, reducing visibility to mere meters, but from within this storm had come something unexpected: visitors. Han arrived to find Security Chief Lee maintaining a cautious perimeter around 7 tall beings. They stood nearly 2 meters high, wrapped in flowing tan and blue garments that protected them from the blowing sand. Their faces were mostly hidden, but Han could see they weren't human. Their skin was a pale yellow, and when one turned toward him, he glimpsed 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. They had arrived riding strange creatures that resembled camels, but with 6 legs and long, flexible necks. These animals stood patiently outside the colony perimeter, seeming unbothered by the storm. "They appeared as the storm hit," Lee explained. "They haven't made any threatening moves. Their leader tried to communicate, but we don't understand their language." Han approached cautiously. The tallest of the visitors stepped forward and bowed slightly. It spoke in a melodic language full of clicks and whistles. Dr. Kim activated the ship's AI through her portable device. "Can you translate?" The AI processed the sounds, then responded, "Partial match to linguistic patterns in archived data. Translation beginning." After several exchanges, the AI began to translate the visitors' words into simple human language. The being called itself Tal, and its people were the Sun Walkers. They had observed the human colony since its establishment, but had waited to make contact. Tal's 4 eyes blinked in sequence as it spoke again. The AI translated, "Your kind has returned. The old songs speak of the sky people who shaped the world before the great drying." Han shook his head. "We've never been here before. We are new to this world." The alien's upper eyes narrowed while the lower ones widened, perhaps their version of a knowing smile. "Not you," Tal replied through the translator, "but your ancestors, the ones who made the singing stones, the ones who brought water." Tal extended a 4-fingered hand, uncurling it to reveal a small object. It looked like a simple metal cube, but as Han watched, it floated up from Tal's palm and hovered in the air between them. The cube projected an image, a lush green landscape with flowing rivers, nothing like the desert around them. "This was our world," Tal said, "before the stars changed, before the sky people left." The storm subsided enough for Han to invite Tal and 2 others into the colony, while the rest of the Sun Walkers made camp nearby. The aliens moved with grace, despite the gravity being slightly different from what they were accustomed to. They examined human technology with curious blinks of their 4 eyes. That night, Han reviewed the day's discoveries with Dr. Kim in the ship's archive room. "The ruins we found today have human design elements," Dr. Kim said, displaying scans on the main screen. "And the genetic readings show the technology was designed to respond to human DNA. This can't be coincidence." "Could the archives be wrong?" Han asked. "Could all this be some elaborate deception?" Dr. Kim shook her head. "The evidence is mounting, Commander. Earth sent missions much farther than our historical records indicated. The genetic compatibility, the technology, these Sun Walkers with their stories about sky people, it all points to one conclusion." Han stood and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of the colony pushed back the desert darkness. In the distance, the campfires of the Sun Walkers flickered like earthbound stars. Above, the unfamiliar constellations of this world shone down on them all. "So we haven't just found a new home," he said quietly. "We've found an old one." "Yes," Dr. Kim agreed, "and now we need to learn what happened here. Why did humans leave? What caused this great drying that turned a green world to desert? And most importantly, are there other lost human colonies out there among the stars?" Han watched as a group of colonists approached the Sun Walker camp, bringing gifts of food and water. The 2 peoples, separated by biology but perhaps united by history, began to share their first meal together under alien stars. "Tomorrow," Han said, "we asked Tal to show us the singing stones." 6 months after landing, the human colony faced its greatest challenge. Water was running out. The moisture collectors couldn't keep up with the needs of 10,000 people. The small wells they had dug were drying up. People were on strict water rations. Hope came when a drilling team discovered a massive underground lake 10 kilometers from the colony. Initial tests showed the water was clean and drinkable with minimal filtering. It was enough water to support the colony for years. 3 days after this discovery, the first ships appeared in the sky. They descended slowly, hovering above the colony like metal clouds. There were 20 of them, each as large as the humans' crashed ship. They were smooth and gray, with no visible windows or doors. A message came through on all communication channels. A deep voice spoke in a language no one understood at first. The ship's AI worked quickly to translate. "This world belongs to the Moor Empire. You are trespassing. Identify yourselves." Commander Han called an emergency meeting with his leadership team. "The Sun Walkers never mentioned another species claiming this planet," said Security Chief Lee. Tal, who had become the official liaison between humans and Sunwalkers, blinked all four eyes slowly. "The Moor stay beyond the Great Eastern Mountains. They rarely come to these lands. They consider them too dry and poor for their needs." "Until we found water," Han said. The next day, a single ship landed outside the colony. A tall reptilian being emerged, flanked by guards wearing armor that seemed to shift colors like the desert sand. The ambassador of the Moor Empire stood 2 heads taller than the tallest human. Its scales were deep blue with green patterns. It moved with precise, careful steps, as if the planet's gravity was slightly too strong. "I am Vask, voice of the 19th expansion," it said through a translator device. "The Moor Empire claims this world. Your presence is unauthorized." Han stood his ground. "We are humans from Earth. Our ship crashed here. We mean no harm and claim only what we need to survive." Vask's vertical pupils narrowed. "Your needs are irrelevant. This world is designated Mining Sector 47. The water resources are property of the Empire. You will submit to more authority or be removed." "We can't survive without water," Han explained. "We need access to the underground lake we discovered." "Your discovery is meaningless. All resources belong to the Empire," Vask said coldly. "You have 2 options: work for the Empire as labor units and receive water rations, or be eliminated as primitive trespassers." After Vask left, the colony prepared for the worst. Security Chief Lee organized defense teams. Engineer Park accelerated the drilling project, hoping to reach the underground lake before the Moor could stop them. "The Moor have claimed our lands for generations," Tal told Han. "They take what they want and leave. My people hide when their ships come. We are too few to fight them." 3 days later, the Moor returned, 50 ships this time. They established a blockade around the drilling site. Workers were forced to flee, leaving equipment behind. "They're cutting us off from the water," Lee reported. "At current usage rates, our reserves will last 3 weeks at most." Han studied the tactical display. "What about our weapons?" "We have the ship's defense systems and the personal weapons the military personnel brought," Lee replied. "But we don't know the Moor's capabilities." Dr. Kim joined them, excitement in her voice. "Commander, we've made a breakthrough in the ancient facility. We've accessed another level of security. There are weapons there, designed by humans from the first expansion." The ancient weapons were simple but effective. Projectile launchers that used compressed air to fire metal darts, small drones that could fly reconnaissance missions, shield generators that created energy barriers. "These are primitive by the standards of the technology we've seen in the archives," Dr. Kim explained, "but they were designed for defense against hostile forces." A week later, the Moor attacked. 100 ships descended on the colony. They deployed ground troops, reptilian soldiers in powered armor carrying energy weapons that scorched the sand to glass. "Coming again," Security Chief Lee announced, studying the scanner in the makeshift command center. 200 vessels this time." Han looked at the water status report. "Water reserves down to 40%, Engineer Park replied. "The new well is still 3 weeks from completion." Han made his decision. "Launch the drones." The battle began at dawn. The Moor expected an easy victory against what they considered primitive newcomers. Instead, they faced determined resistance. The ancient human weapons proved surprisingly effective. The drones were nearly invisible to Moor sensors, designed to exploit weaknesses in detection systems. The projectile weapons bypassed the Moor's energy shields, which were calibrated to stop energy attacks. Most surprising to the Moor were the combat tactics. Human soldiers moved in coordinated groups, using the terrain to their advantage. They had studied how the Moor fought and adapted quickly. The Sun Walkers joined the battle, guiding human forces through secret paths in the desert. Their knowledge of the terrain proved invaluable. By sunset, the Moor were retreating. They had lost 30 ships and hundreds of ground troops. The human colony had suffered damage but held its position. Most importantly, they had secured the drilling site. When the fighting ended, Han met with his team to assess the situation. "Why were our weapons so effective?" he asked. Engineer Park had an answer. The more rely on energy-based technology. In this planet's unique atmosphere, those systems are less efficient. Our projectile weapons don't have that limitation. Also, Dr. Kim added, the archives suggest the first expansion humans fought similar beings. These weapons may have been specifically designed to combat them. 3 days after the battle, Tal and a group of Sun Walkers approached the colony. You fight as the legends said, Tal observed, all four eyes wide with respect. The old songs tell that the Sky People were both creators and warriors. They built great things but could also defend what they made. The Sun Walkers offered their help in building a water system. Their knowledge of the desert combined with human engineering created something new. They developed pipes that could move water efficiently through the hot sand without losing moisture. They found plants that could help filter and purify water naturally. Within a month, the water reclamation system was operating at 3 times the efficiency of the original design. For the first time, crops began to flourish in the colony's biodomes. Trees planted as seeds now reached toward the twin suns. Security Chief Lee watched the skis with concern. They'll be back, she warned during a council meeting. Han nodded, looking at the new defenses being constructed around the colony. Ancient human technology combined with modern engineering created a formidable protection system. And we'll be ready, he said. That night, Han walked through the growing colony. Children born on this world played in gardens that hadn't existed a month earlier. The Sun Walkers shared songs with human musicians, creating new music under alien stars. Scientists from both species worked together, studying the planet's ecology. In the distance, the drilling team reported success. They had reached the underground lake. Water, the most precious resource on this desert world, would soon flow freely. Han looked toward the eastern horizon, where the Moor Empire waited beyond the mountains. This was just the beginning of their struggle to make this world their home again. The colony grew stronger in the months after the water war. New homes spread beyond the crashed ship. Gardens flourished with the steady water supply. Children played in the first park built from transformed desert sand. The humans and Sun Walkers worked together, sharing knowledge and building a community. Commander Han approved a plan to expand the colony northward, where sensors showed flat land good for farming. Officer Min led the survey team, mapping the area for future buildings. Commander, you need to see this, Officer Min called over the radio one morning, her voice trembling with excitement. Han arrived at the northern site an hour later with Dr. Kim and Engineer Park. The survey team had uncovered something while clearing sand for foundation work. A massive metal door lay half exposed, its surface still shiny despite being buried for countless years. We found it when the ground scanning equipment detected a void beneath us, Officer Min explained. The sand moved away easily, as if it was meant to be removed. Han knelt to examine the door, his heart beating faster when he saw the symbol engraved at its center, a stylized Earth surrounded by stars with the letters UESC beneath it. United Earth Space Command, Han whispered. This is human. Dr. Kim ran her scanner over the door. The metal is a titanium alloy, similar to our ship's hull, but the manufacturing technique is different, more advanced. Engineer Park found a panel beside the door. When he wiped away the sand, lights flickered on its surface. It still has power after all this time. Han placed his hand on the panel. The door responded immediately, sliding open with a soft hiss. Cool air flowed out from below. Lights activated along a descending ramp, revealing a passage leading deep underground. Security team, establish a perimeter, Han ordered. Dr. Kim, Engineer Park, you're with me. They descended carefully. The passage was wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side. The walls were smooth metal, unmarked except for occasional symbols that matched those on the door.